We already have quite a few number of questions here, Charles. I think most of them are concerning the banks. But first of all, I'd like to ask you a question with regard to what you said a while ago. So, sorry, another question I personally have because I've been looking at the banks over the past couple of weeks, kasi when the market rallied to 7,000, parang medyo naiwan yung banks.
Yeah.
But in your slide, parang they're not as badly hit, no?
Yes.
As compared to other industries. Now, ano yung view natin dito?
All right.
Given that, is it good na medyo I increase my percentage in, or I even consider more banks right now?
Okay.
Given this correction.
All right. So let me take this opportunity to reinforce my slides a while ago, my point a while ago, right? So narrative and numbers. Okay. What's happening with banks now is that it's not their numbers that is hurting them. It's the narrative. What's that narrative? The narrative that NPLs are coming. NPLs, non-performing loans. So these are the loans that eventually people won't be able to pay off. Okay. So to be honest, hindi pa siya dumarating. Why? Because of several reasons. Number one, because of Bayanihan 1, if you remember Bayanihan 1, it postponed the payments for throughout the duration of the ECQ. So a couple of months, right? So it delays the formation of NPLs. Okay. But you might say that is that good or bad? Good in the sense that good only in an artificial sense because nominally you don't see NPLs very high yet. Right? But it's also bad because it reduces the visibility of earnings going forward. The visibility, because hindi natin alam. Mas maganda pa sabihin mo na lang sa akin, ilan na lang yung mag-NPL. So I can take care of it now, I can book the losses now, and we can move on, right? Versus us not really knowing what's gonna happen, right? So what the banks are doing right now, if you look at their core earnings, meaning if you think about the interest earnings, the interest income that they're earning, it's actually up year on year.
Okay.
Actually up. It's even up. It's not 28. I think I saw the number was a while ago 28%. No. What the banks are doing is that they are proactively providing for this bad loans.
Expected increase in
NPLs. They're trying to guess already. Okay. What will the bad loans be? And they're trying to proactively provide for those. Right? And so hopefully in the future, they don't need to set aside funds to deal with this pandemic.
So Charles, yan yung mga provisionings, for those who are not quite familiar. So yan is actual cash, that they put aside. That directly hits the profits, no? Tama ba?
Yes.
But
in this period.
In this period, na wala pa NPL, just expecting high NPLs. Okay.
Yes. Kumaga parang saving up for the worst.
That's
okay?
Right.
So now going back to your other point, you mentioned that before this last 5 weeks, banks were the laggards, right?
Yeah.
And I believe this is exactly the reason why. The narrative is still very bad. The numbers are still good. If you look at it, the numbers are very good, right? But the narrative is already very bad, and in fact worse than the other companies. If you think about it, for example, restaurants are bad, right? I mean, walang lumalabas. But quarter on quarter, you're already seeing improvements.
That's right.
In contrast, for the banks, for next quarter, you're like bracing for the worst pa. Baka mag-spike up pa. Diba? So the narrative is worse. So that's the reason for the underperformance. Now, why did it catch up the last 5 weeks? I believe again it's all about the developments about the vaccine, the reopening, gradual reopening of the economy. Because if you think about it, diba, let's say may utang ka, diba? You're barely surviving, right? You don't know when the pandemic will end. You don't know when everything will be back to normal, right? So maybe sige kunin mo na lang yung property ko, sa'yo na, I'll default, right? But once you hear about the vaccine, maybe ay
O teka lang.
teka, baka second half next year
Teka
baka
lang.
pwede na lumaban.
Pwede na
So
lumabas.
sige, by restructure na lang ng loans. I'm not gonna default.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my position. I'm gonna keep my business,
Yes.
and I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna add more resource,
Yes.
what have you, right? So I'm not saying it's gonna happen to everybody. Okay, but for some, right? So there's an improvement in the narrative for the banks recently that that explains the move.
Okay. Okay.
So
Alright.
hopefully I was able to answer.
Yes. Thank you. Ang naalala ko dyan sa Bayanihan to na yan eh. Dinelay nga yung loan payment mo. Siningil ka naman ng finance fee. Ano yung
Yes,
nila
yes, correct.
that you have to call the banks pa na, oy, teka lang, I didn't ask you to extend my loan. Ano? So anyway, so we have another few questions here, Charles, on banks. So here, ito also a question I have. Ano? I think we're flashing it through Slido, guys. No? Yan. What's your take on BDO? Ako, I've held this since the rough months. But it seems like kahit siya yung banking, of course, the bank of the SM Group, it has lagged significantly. Correct. What's your take?
Okay. As an industry, I think I've addressed the industry view already.
Yes.
So,
why not tayo dyan?
Lahat naman sila nag-rally. But
yeah,
if you look at BDO, maybe relative to the other banks, you might have also noticed that they also lagged. Okay, they also lagged. So, kumbaga nauna na si Metrobank, si BPI, and then BDO followed just recently. And I believe the reason could be, again, what's difficult with markets is that we don't really know what they're thinking. We're trying to make our best guess, right? But I can't just Google why is BDO weak. I can't just do that, right? So we're in a way we're trying to read their minds. And so my guess, again, this is also my best guess, but it's just a guess, right? Is that historically BDO has been trading at a premium, right? Versus the other banks. And so with this pandemic, right? Kumbaga, mas malaki yung downside nila if you think about it, right?
That's right.
So that one, and that's part of it, and maybe another part. And again, this is just my personal view, is that compared to the other banks, they're less aggressive when it comes to provisioning.
Okay.
So the Metrobank is more aggressive, BPI is more aggressive, the other banks, the smaller banks also are more aggressive. So maybe the markets would prefer that you provide today, right? So that next year growth na tayo. Diba? If you don't, kasi sooner, I mean, whether you provide today or tomorrow, it's the same thing, right? I mean,
if it hits you have to provide for it.
So at least providing today gives you that buffer, gives you that caution that you can withstand the crisis, right? But again, having said these two factors, over the long term, I don't see any reason why BDO should underperform. So over the long term, I'm actually bullish with BDO. Right? Because I don't see any reason why si BDO lang ang may malaking NPLs, the rest of the banks wala. Parang pare-pareho lang sila ng customers. So I don't see any long-term reason why it has to stay that way.
Okay. All right. Here's a slight market question, Charles. I hope you can lend your knowledge also here. No? Who is buying the market? Value turnover seems to be above average, and the foreign investors mostly are selling. Can we validate this?
Okay, yeah, that is correct. Foreign investors still net selling, right? Although to be fair, it's not as bad as for the first 5 months of the pandemic, right? Dati talaga every single day. Ngayon, maybe once or twice a week, you see a foreign buying. So it's not as bad, right? Who's buying the market? Well, just dalawa lang naman yung pwedeng choice. So if not the foreign, then it's the local, right? And I think it has to do again with optimism, right? Optimism globally about the vaccine, about the declining cases, right? So the maybe the retail investors also I've noticed, the retail investors has also been aggressively
quite
participating in the markets, maybe partly because the smaller issues have been going up, right? So kumbaga siguro mas may risk appetite, you're making money, right? So sige, I'll add more exposure, I'll buy more, right? And usually it's very normal naman once you see a sustained up move, it's very normal behaviorally speaking for people to buy
susunod
more.
na yung rally.
Kasi
Yung
parang
mga
kung nag-aantay
retail.
ka, I remember the sentiment, no? So
convinced ka na no? Taas na, convinced ka na, like ng pera.
So one tool that I've mentioned before, no? So sentiment, no? Understanding the market sentiment. If I recall, maybe before the rally 5 weeks ago, everybody was kind of bored. Bored is probably the word. Uninterested, bored, right? So nothing's happening with the market. Sideways every day, down a little bit, and then
volumes
suddenly you see prices
thin,
going up, diba? So dati baka sabihin mo, wala naman nangyayari, may pandemic pa rin. But now prices are going up. Teka, baka maiwanan ako. So
maiwan na ako.
That's very normal behaviorally speaking, and I don't see anything different today.
Okay. All
Wait,
right.
just to add, okay, today and maybe today today is the last day of the MSCI rebalancing also, right? So that is the reason why today you have really huge volumes, but that's only for today.
Okay. Quick question, Jen Charles, kasi we've been asked by our customers also in premium with that, no? Saan ka titingin ng rebalancing notices for MSCI? Kasi parang in their experience and also my experience, I always get surprised by these things.
Okay. They
hindi friendly yung
it.
MSCI website Ang hirap din navigate.
It's in the MSCI website,
Okay.
It's there, but they don't give the weightings for the public. So sasabihin lang for example, this last one, it was announced, I believe November 10 probably. They announced it on November 10 that we're gonna remove RLC from the standard index, right? Effective November 30, but holiday siya, so today's the last day, right? But they won't tell you the weightings. No, I think you have to subscribe to their services before they give you the
para
weightings.
malaman mo.
But they do announce it in the website. So if you already, like for example, for us, we already know that they announce it 4 times a year, right? So plus 3 months lang. So November 10, and then so plus 3 is February, and then May, and then August, right? So around those days, we're also checking the website already.
The website. Okay, that's a very nice tip. Okay, ito may friend ako dito pare. Pag December, yung pinambibili ng regalo niya sa asawa niya, yung kinikita niya sa stock market. So ito yung question sa customer natin. Typically, December outperforms. But with the new norms and all that has happened so far in 2020, will December still be higher than November, or at least better for the stock market? Itong particular December na to.
Okay. I don't know the answer. I really don't know the answer. I wish I knew the answer. Right? But I don't know.
Di ba kayong leanings lang on spending, di ba? Kasi puro tayo anecdotal, like me and my wife, we are not giving as many gifts as before, no? Or, di ba? Companies are not expected to throw parties. So, I don't know. Di ba? Parang ganun.
Yeah, but again, that's correct. But again, it's all about what has already been priced in. Matagal na, to be fair, naririnig ko na siya medyo matagal na. Di ba? Na parang as early as August, June, July, August, people are saying na paano na yan by end of the year, wala nang Christmas bonus because they already paid the 13th month pay. You remember this? That's to be honest, that's the difficulty with the stock market. Even if it's a perfectly valid point, right? Perfectly valid analysis. Wala nang 13th month pay, wala nang Christmas party. Siyempre, kumbaga yung mga company, wala na rin pang bonus. I mean, di ba? Barely struggling, right? People don't have jobs. So, all these analyses are correct, right? But the next question, and the infinitely harder question is, alam na ba ng market yan? Because if it's already priced in,
Yes.
then if you think it's, I don't know the answer. You could argue yes or
Okay.
no.
Okay.
But if you think it's priced in, then we shouldn't use that information anymore. So that's
Okay.
my point in the, I know. So it's up to you. If you think it's not yet priced in, then that's bearish. We should be careful. But if it's already, if you believe it's already priced in, then we shouldn't worry about it anymore. Now, if
Okay.
something unexpected happens, for example, let's say yun nga, let's say knock on wood lang. Let's say biglang something happens with the vaccine na shit, may
Mm.
side effect. Ano pala,
Oh.
tas stop na lahat ng whatever. I'm sure
Oh,
that's not
yeah.
expected. I'm
That's
sure
not
that's not
expected.
expected. So that's a different thing. Markets would
Mm.
probably sell off, right? But
Okay.
hopefully it doesn't happen. And that's maybe the extreme case. Baka unlikely yung mangyari. But somewhere in between, maybe that's the more positive. But yeah, that's my point.
Okay. Talking about the MSCI rebalancing, ito, a customer is asking, can the panelists share their views on the BPI sell-off today?
Yeah, puro banks ah.
Oh.
Okay, sige. Okay, so BPI sell-off. Okay, I believe that BPI was also a beneficiary of the rebalancing, right? So
Beneficiary. Okay.
beneficiary because tinaasan yung weighting niya. It wasn't added, it has already been there, but the weighting of BPI was increased, right? So if you noticed, after the announcement, I believe, again, November 10, you see BPI prices rally significantly. Kasi bakit? Again, because they are already anticipating, forward-looking, di ba? They're already anticipating that fund managers will be forced to follow the index by November 27. So kung ako, trader ako, I'm gonna buy ahead of November 27, right? In fact, I'm gonna buy as early as possible. So on that day, kung nalaman ko, I'm gonna buy BPI. So if you look at it, BPI share price has rallied significantly over the last 1 or 2 weeks, right? And usually, ang play dyan is, okay, I buy as soon as possible and I sell to the funds on the last day. Kasi I know they're forced to buy. Okay? But sometimes, because again, unfortunately, markets is not that easy, right? So markets price that information in also. So maybe what happened was, and I can only say this definitively in hindsight, what happened was maraming tao masyado yung nag-anticipate of the last day pop. Get it?
Okay.
And it didn't happen for whatever reason. Baka naparami yung bilin nila. Mas marami yung nag-arbitrage, yung nagsisell kaysa dung funds that's following the index. So you saw the gap down. So usually, on the last day of any MSCI rebalancing, it didn't only happen for BPI, okay? Today, if you may have noticed, SM was also down, gap down then at the close. I think by about 3%. Globe was also down. RLC was also down, but RLC was removed, right? But you see, so usually at the last day of the rebalancing, you see major volumes, as in several billions in terms of volumes, right? And that could potentially cause gaps. So it's not really out of the ordinary, is what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Ito, one of the few companies na sikat because of our flight attendant friends. But again, next question is, ano yung discount na ni market dito on SEB?
Okay.
What's your view on Cebu? No?
Generally, I'm bullish. Okay? Because again,
alam na natin yan eh.
I mean,
no? Tama.
alam na natin.
Na-discount na yan. No?
But especially actually when it was, before it rallied. Ngayon, syempre with the optimism of vaccine, again, it rallied. And the only hesitation that I have, so I'm really bullish because, again, eventually everything would normalize. But siguro, it's not personally my priority because of their capital raising activity. So what's gonna happen? So for those of you who doesn't know, they're gonna raise capital. So let's not get too technical about it. They're gonna raise capital simply because they would have a hard time surviving without it. Okay, so they need to raise capital to give them buffer to kasi kahit may vaccine second half next year, every month they're losing money. Every month they're losing money. So they're gonna raise capital. Okay, and so even if eventually earnings, let's say let's say na lang, I don't have the exact number with me. Let's say earnings before the pandemic was at 5 billion pesos. Let's say. After the pandemic, let's say sabi bumalik lahat to normal, 5 billion pesos. Eventually, let's say 2022. But the problem now is, by 2022, you have double the number of shares. Because you had to raise capital today to withstand the hard times. So so even if you're still making the same earnings, right? Your EPS, your earnings per share, which is the more relevant number, right, would be lower. Depending on the additional capital that you're raising. Okay. So that's the reason why I kind of prefer the other recovery plays rather than
this one.
Right? Because of that capital raising risk. Right?
Because in essence, if you're in essence you're borrowing money or you're raising capital, they're just in-advance mo lang yung future earnings mo to be used today. Something like that.
Yes.
So
and they
later
get
on when you earn, babayaran mo either through capital or through debt. You'll have to pay for it.
So even if they don't go bankrupt, which I don't think they will, even if they don't go bankrupt, the dilution could hurt investors today.
Medyo mas complex pa pala yan.
So may added layer lang. But generally, I'm still okay, but it's just not my priority. I mean, I prefer the other recovery plays without that dilution risk.
Okay, all right. Next question, Charles. What do you see the level of the PSEi next year?
Okay, sige.
Enough ko na ba?
Favorite question ko eh.
Yeah, yun yung favorite question ng lahat ng tao. 2021.
Well, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Because I really don't want to answer that, because I really believe what would happen is, if I give a number, you're gonna forget about everything and just focus on the number. Right? You get what I'm saying? So, for example, if I say 7.5, I'm not saying 7.5, example lang. So if I say 7.5, people say, 6.8, may upside pa. All in na. And then whatever happens for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, once it reaches, let's say it does reach 7.5, even if markets has already changed, people will remember, sabi ni person XYZ 7.5, so I'm gonna sell it. Right? And blame me if I'm wrong. So, right? So I really don't want to lose the nuances of our discussion. So, but generally, let me just try my best to answer that. Generally, I'm bullish. So can I just say higher? Can I just say higher? Significantly higher. I think it's going to be higher next year. Right?
Right.
Yeah, especially after the correction the last 3 or 4 days. I think it should be higher than today.
All right. At least that's already a bold enough prediction in itself. So another question. I think it's not on the list, but I think someone very special asked me to ask this. So you think this rally will lift all the boats, right? Meaning not equally all, no?
Yes.
But I guess the challenge really here is, how do we allocate? No? So do you go for the liquidity issues na gusto ng mga foreigners? Do you go for index heavyweights? Do you go value? But no growth? Or do you want growth but expensive? Or do you put your money on illiquid issues with potential catalysts?
Well, I could answer that question.
It's a buong talk yun, ano?
Yun nga eh. That's my concern. I mean,
most priority mo na lang, Charles.
Extend na lang tayo to 10 o'clock and I can answer all of those questions.
Another part so, siguro nito.
Yeah, so maybe I could just answer like for today, like just specifically for as of now.
Your views are really better than what we can get across. So
again, this is because I can't really, and hopefully I mean it doesn't get lost. The nuances won't get lost.
Yeah, of course.
But so for today, kasi I think what happened was nauna nga, usually kasi what happens in the markets is that whenever you see a huge move, usually una yung mga big caps.
Yes.
Because when fund managers buy, they buy first the big caps, diba? And then pag mahal na, they rotate to the medium size, to the smaller companies. So I think we're at this stage now wherein the bigger caps are already there.
Okay.
Kumbaga, nauna na sila SM Prime, Jollibee, nauna na. And so now I'm looking for those smaller companies that would also benefit from the recovery, pero hindi lang sila as priority. So the second liners, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be my priority. In terms of the type of company, I'm still looking at recovery plays, not versus, okay, not the resilient plays. Because usually resilient nasa taas na yan eh.
Yeah.
Diba? Di na sila, like for example,
Favorite
CNPF, right?
Yes.
CNPF is already, so I don't really want to prioritize it anymore. So I'd rather prefer those that are really hit by the pandemic but will eventually recover without bankruptcy issues, right? So yeah, those so the recovery plays, okay? So maybe and yun nga kasi I personally I also use a lot of different tools, like I also use technical analysis. I also try to look at the fund flows in and out of the Philippines, so that also helps my decision. So unfortunately I can't discuss everything today because people will get bored.
Okay. All right. Okay na yun, I guess. So we're expecting rotation dun sa mga not the resilient ones, recovery plays na medyo mura.
The recovery plays,
fantastic.
A bit the smaller ones,
Ito, more personal question, Charles. What are your 3 most favorite stocks today?
Again, I'm scared that if I say it, if I say that, people will stop thinking and just follow me and blame me afterwards. Right? So, but okay, let's just say, okay, medyo plug na lang. Just read our Calling the Shots. The Calling the Shots report, kumbaga, di ba, if you guys are reading the Calling the Shots, hopefully you are. We have 2 sets of recommendations, right? The resilient ones and the recovery ones. So I'm looking, I like them, but I prefer the recovery. Hindi yung resilient. Okay.
Okay. Kasi medyo mataas na sila.
Yeah, I like the recovery one. So yun na lang. So
sige.
You read that report na lang.
Yon. Calling the Shots, guys.
Para si April. Para si boss ang nagsulat. Hindi ako.
Yan. Okay, ito medyo mahaba to pero sige, let's iba na natin dito. Alright, so another question, Charles. So bull markets are generally started by skepticism. So at the start of this massive rally, laging may mga doubters pa yan. But die with optimism. Pag okay na lahat, or when your doctor tells you about the markets, tapos na yan. No? Exactly. So question is, are we optimistic already?
Yeah. Personally, I don't think so. Right? Okay. I mean, when I talk to a lot of people, again, there's still lots of concerns, which is very valid, right? I mean, kailan pa darating yung vaccine? May enough doses ba? Do we even have the budget to pay for the vaccine? I mean, you're still hearing all those things, right? I mean, may pera ba yung gobyerno? Bibigyan ba tayo? Or kasi nauna na mag-reserve yung ibang country. Those are the narratives that we're still seeing up to this point. So I don't think we're near that yet. So maybe once you're hearing everybody more pa like people really aggressively buying, maybe anecdotal evidence like using margin. But to be honest, I was a bit surprised, that in the poll a while ago, like 68% was looking to add funds. So maybe not as bearish as I initially thought. Maraming optimistic kagaya ko. But I still see some hesitation. And but it's really, I hope I could give you a quantitative answer, right? Again, we can't just go on Google and Google, overall market sentiment today. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know how to answer that question, but to the best of my ability, it's much better now, obviously, than 5 weeks ago with the vaccine. But still, I think we still have a ways to go. We still have a ways to go. So, pero medyo long term to. Again, please don't go on to Tuesday and just go all in blindly and just blame me after. You won't be able to find me.
Okay. Okay, so some more stock specific question. I think we still have a few minutes on the Q&A, Charles?
Sure.
Just let me know if you're okay for me to ask this. So first of all, what's your take on Ali and Arit?
Okay. Okay, Ayala Land, I'm bullish. In a word, I'm
Mm-hmm.
bullish. Again, I know this is a cyclical company. If
Mm-hmm.
your assumption is that the economy won't do well, if that is your assumption, then feel free to disagree with my view. But again, my
Okay.
my belief is that we've seen the worst, and
Mm-hmm.
I have faith in the scientists, in those who develop the vaccine. I
Yes.
have faith in the
The
people in
process in which they were
general,
approved.
right?
Tama,
Yeah,
tama.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
optimistic. So I think that this is how we've already seen the worst, and that should benefit Ayala Land both on their residential side and their
Okay.
malls business, right? So yeah, I'm bullish on that. AREIT also would, yeah, I'm also bullish because again, what's usually the play in AREIT is a bit different because
Mm-hmm.
if it's more of a dividend play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the key variable that I'm looking at is the dividend play, the dividend yield, right? Which is, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, is about 5 to 6% if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, and then
that's
you
right.
compare that to bonds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
That's right.
bonds right now again are at historical lows, right? Short-term bonds at less than 2%,
Mm-hmm.
long-term bonds at 3%. So very very low yields, right?
Higher
So
tax
as
pan.
a bond replacement, a bond
Mm-hmm.
alternative, right? I'm bullish
Pwede
with
na.
AREIT, but yeah, between the two, I'd probably prefer Ayala Land because the gains won't be as capped, right? Kasi mas predictable kasi ang earnings ng A-REIT. So in a way, it's also capped in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
upside, right? But I'm,
Okay.
yeah, bullish ako sa lahat. in
Ito,
general, in
let,
general. Just
let
wait
me
for
see kung bullish ko
opportunities to
dito.
buy.
Ito. Ito.
Okay, just be patient, wait for opportunities to buy. But yeah,
Yes. Ito, next question, Charles. Is dito promising? Ito medyo sikat past couple of weeks kasi I
okay,
think naayos na yung kanilang ownership structure. What's your take
okay.
on this?
Let me just give you facts and it's up to you to
Okay.
decide. Okay? Kasi
Okay.
baka controversial eh. Di ba? So, as of today, Dito would effectively own, I forgot the exact number, but about 53%, if I'm not mistaken. 53% of that Dito listed company would own 53% of the telco, the telco, the third telco, right? And at its current market price and all the planned capital raising activity, I
Mhm.
believe the market cap, the implied value of the third telco would be about 160 to 170 billion pesos. So that's the implied market cap of the third telco.
Mhm.
Just to give you perspective, Globe is doing at 260 billion today. Globe is
Mhm.
valued at 260 billion pesos today. PLDT at about 300 billion pesos today. So again, the numbers are 160 billion for Dito, 260 for Globe, 300 for PLDT. If you think that's a reasonable valuation,
Mhm.
if you think Dito is worth more than half of PLDT and Globe, then by all means, right? But if you don't think so, right,
Mhm.
then I can't recommend the buy. So
Okay.
so yeah, that's just my analysis of it. So yeah,
Okay.
hopefully it
Thank you.
answers the question.
The question.
Yeah.
Ito, a quick question lang on research. No? How far forward does the research team look? Parang how
How
far
far
forward
forward?
is the analysis of research? Can you say that it's a 3 year view? Is it a 5 year view, or is it a
Well,
yeah?
theoretically, technically, the answer to that question is forever. I mean, as far
No,
as
okay.
needed. I mean, because that's
Okay.
the value. For example,
Okay.
let me
Okay.
answer it specifically. Okay,
Mm.
in research, we use for most of our companies, we use the DCF method, the
Yes.
discounted cash flow method, and in
Mhm.
that method, we consider all future cash flows. So,
Okay.
so the
Okay. All
target
future
price
cash
that
flows.
you're seeing there
It's a
in a way
moving thing,
assumes in a way
Yeah.
assumes
Yeah.
that we're gonna hold it until forever. Okay, so
Okay.
technically speaking, that's the answer, right? But
Mhm.
maybe on a more practical level, because you might say, which is a very valid point,
Mhm.
that how can you forecast things 5 years from now or 20 years from now or 10 years from now,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, practically speaking, we're also limited by the visibility of earnings. For example,
Mhm.
now, or for example, at the start of the pandemic when it broke out in March, we really
Mhm.
didn't know how to cut our earnings estimates back then. Hindi namin alam.
Mhm.
I mean, I really don't know how. I mean, do we just assume 50% down, 60% down? How? We don't
Mhm.
know, right? So, in a way, we're also limited by, tao lang kami. So, we're also limited
Oh,
by the same obstacles that
information.
everybody else,
Right.
the information available. So, in that sense, in terms of earnings visibility, the
Mhm.
conviction in the earnings, maybe 6 to 12 months probably would be a good number, right? Dun lang yung mas may conviction, mas may visibility in terms of earnings.
Mhm.
But in terms of what we try to take into account,
Mhm.
that's all future cash flows.
Okay, got it. All right. So for our final question, Charles, given the current market today, are you gonna add? Are you gonna keep it the same, or are you gonna reduce your personal positions?
I think you could already guess my answer. I'm
Oh,
I am patiently waiting for opportunities to buy.
okay. All right.
I'm
Right.
patient.
Okay.
Just
Right.
be patient. Yun yung keyword
Yeah.
for today. Just be patient,
Yes.
right? I know I sound very bullish, right?
Mhm.
But patience is key. Eventually, akyat naman yan lahat eh. Di ba? But
Oh,
patience is
that's right.
key because we don't want it to buy and then in 2 weeks down
Yeah.
10%, 5%. You
Oh.
probably curse me, right? So just be patient. Wait for the right setups if you know your technicals. If you don't know, try to buy in tranches, right? I'm sure
Okay.
we're teaching that in COL, right? So just
Mhm.
buy in tranches to avoid that risk because we never know, right?
Mm.
Kahit ang sabihin natin markets are overbought in the short term. So,
Yeah.
prices could drop 5-10% next week, right? We don't know what could happen, right? But again, with the right setup, with the right risk management, with the right,
You're improving your chances to earn from
yes,
that
yes.
particular investment.
So
If you just,
I'm
be
looking
patient
to
and, use the
looking
tools,
to
iba-ibang
buy and
tools.
I'm looking to hold for the long term.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Charles, for sharing your knowledge with us.